Some traders spend their entire lives chasing the feeling of winning, chasing the rush of being right, chasing the fantasy that one clean month, one perfect streak, one flawless run of execution will finally prove that they belong in this world, that they are capable, that they are different, that they have what it takes. And they never realize that this obsession with winning is exactly what keeps them weak. Because the moment you need the market to confirm your worth, the moment you need a chart to tell you that you are enough, the moment you start treating every trade like a verdict on who you are, you have already stepped into the game as prey, not as a professional, and the market can feel that desperation before you even click the button. What if I told you that the traders who make the most money are often the ones who stopped trading to win a very long time ago? The ones who no longer wake up looking for victory, no longer sit down at their screens hoping the market will reward their effort, no longer build emotional castles on the outcome of a single setup because they learned something that most people never truly accept. And that is that the market does not pay you for your need. It does not reward your urgency. It does not care about your last losing streak or your bills or your frustration or the story in your head about why this next trade has to work. And in fact, the more you need something from it, the more distorted your perception becomes, the more reactive your behavior becomes, and the more likely you are to betray the one thing that actually mattered in the first place, which was never prediction, never perfection, never avoiding losses, but the ability to remain internally stable while uncertainty is pressing against your chest. Most traders never understand this because they are still addicted to the wrong idea. And the wrong idea is this, that trading is a scoreboard, that the green days mean you are progressing and the red days mean something is broken. That winning means you are getting closer and losing means you are falling behind. And so they build their emotional life around numbers on a screen. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted, why they cannot trust themselves, why they keep sabotaging their own execution, why they know exactly what they should do and still do the opposite when pressure enters the room. But the answer was always there, quietly waiting for them to be honest enough to see it, because trading was never really exposing their strategy. It was exposing their nervous system, their emotional habits, their relationship with uncertainty, their attachment to control, and every trade they took under pressure was simply revealing that they had never learned how to stay the same when the outcome was unknown. You have probably felt this yourself, maybe more times than you want to admit. Those moments when the chart looked clean, the setup was there, the logic made sense, the plan was already clear in your mind, and yet something inside you tightened. Your breathing changed, your hand hesitated, your mind started searching for one more confirmation, one more reason, one more signal, and by the time you acted, the move was already gone. Or maybe you entered too early because you could not tolerate the waiting any longer. Or maybe you got stopped out and instantly felt that familiar heat rise into your chest. That dangerous voice that does not sound crazy in the moment, that voice that says, get it back, take another one. Do not end the session like this. Do not let the market do this to you. And what makes that moment so destructive is not the loss itself. It is the fact that the loss touched something deeper than money, something older, something more personal, because now the trade is no longer a trade. Now it is your ego, your image, your self-worth, your need to not feel small, all collapsing into one impulsive decision. That is the part most people never say out loud, because it ruins the fantasy. But the market does not just reflect your analysis. It reflects your inner condition. It reflects how you handle discomfort, how quickly you search for relief, how attached you are to being right, how badly you need control when life feels uncertain. And that is why two traders can look at the exact same setup, take the exact same entry, use the exact same risk, and still live in two completely different psychological worlds. Because one of them is executing an idea, while the other is trying to fix himself through the outcome, and the market is merciless with people who do that. There comes a point, if you stay in this game long enough, and if you are honest enough not to hide behind technical language and pretty screenshots and excuses dressed up as analysis, when you start realizing that your biggest losses were never really technical failures, they were emotional confessions. They were moments when pressure stripped away the performance and showed you who was really sitting at the desk. Whether it was the disciplined operator who could take the hit and continue, or the wounded child who needed to recover his pride. Whether it was the calm professional who understood that a loss is simply part of the distribution, or the reactive gambler who took being wrong as a personal insult. And if you have ever blown up a good week in one day, if you have ever taken a perfectly manageable loss and turned it into a disaster, if you have ever watched yourself clicking almost as if someone else was controlling your hand, then you already know what I'm talking about, because the pain was never in the first stop out. The real damage came from your inability to sit with what that stop out made you feel. That is why the traders who last, the traders who quietly build real consistency, the traders who stop performing and start operating at a different level, are not the ones who found a magical way to avoid losing. They are the ones who made peace with losing before it happened. The ones who accepted at a deep level that red days are not interruptions in the process, but expressions of it. The ones who train themselves to absorb discomfort without immediately needing to escape it. Because once you stop treating loss as a threat to your identity, something extraordinary begins to happen. Your vision clears, your decisions simplify, your execution stops being contaminated by urgency, and you finally understand that the edge was never in forcing more out of the market. It was in removing more noise from yourself. Most people hear that and think it sounds passive, soft, almost philosophical, but it is the opposite, because there is nothing passive about sitting in front of uncertainty and refusing to let your emotions drag you into chaos. There is nothing soft about taking loss after loss and still showing up the next day with the exact same standards, the exact same sizing, the exact same respect for process. And there is certainly nothing weak about becoming the kind of trader who no longer needs the outcome of any single trade to feel centered. Because that kind of detachment is not indifference. It is strength. It is conditioning. It is the result of seeing the game clearly enough to know that all your emotional drama was never helping you. It was only making you easier to break. And maybe that is the real wake-up call here. Maybe the real thing that needs to hit a trader in the chest before anything changes is the realization that most of what they call passion is just emotional instability with good branding. Most of what they call ambition is just impatience in a suit. Most of what they call confidence is nothing but temporary excitement after a few green days. And the market will take all of that from you again and again until you finally stop trying to become someone through winning and start learning how to remain yourself through losing. Because the market has a way of humiliating every false identity. Eventually, every oversized ego, every fragile self-image, every person who built their confidence on recent results instead of inner structure. And this is why so many traders live on a roller coaster, feeling unstoppable after a win, doubting their entire future after a loss, because they never built a stable center that could survive both. The shift begins when you stop asking the wrong questions, when you stop asking, how do I win more? How do I avoid losses? How do I recover faster? How do I finally become consistently profitable? And instead you begin asking something quieter, something more dangerous, something most people avoid because they already know the answer will force change. And that question is this: who exactly shows up when pressure enters the room? Who is it that takes over when the trade goes against me? Who is it that starts negotiating with the stop? Who is it that suddenly wants to size bigger after a drawdown? Who is it that cannot sit still? Who is it that turns one bad moment into a personal war? Because until you know that version of yourself intimately, until you can recognize him before he clicks, before he speaks, before he justifies, before he starts telling you stories that sound reasonable in the heat of the moment, you will keep calling your chaos strategy and your impulses instinct and your emotional leakage bad luck. There are traders who move differently, and you can feel it when you watch them, because there is less tension around them, less forcing, less noise, less dramatic reaction to what the market is doing. And it is not because they know something mystical or possess some superhuman level of certainty. It is because they understand that certainty was never the goal. Internal steadiness was, and so they sit, they wait, they observe. They let the setup come to them instead of chasing something to relieve discomfort. They take the loss when it comes. They journal it. They breathe. They step away when needed. And they return the next session unchanged. And this is what makes them dangerous. Not aggression, not bravado, not prediction, but the ability to stay the same regardless of whether the last trade paid them or punished them. That kind of trader does not need the market to be gentle with him because he is no longer trying to protect an illusion. He is no longer trying to defend an identity built on being right. He is no longer trying to extract self-worth from outcomes. And that changes everything because now he can see clearly. Now he can follow the plan even when it feels uncomfortable. Now he can let a winner develop without panicking. Now he can take a stop without interpreting it as failure. Now he can leave a session down and still sleep like a man who knows exactly who he is because his identity is no longer fused with his P&L, it is fused with his conduct. And this is where most people quietly fall away because what they thought they wanted was profitability, but what this path actually demands is self-confrontation, repetition, emotional honesty, humility, patience, and the willingness to be bored for long periods of time without creating chaos just to feel alive. And not everyone is built for that. Not everyone can handle that level of stillness because stillness forces you to meet yourself. And many traders would rather lose money than sit long enough to feel what is really driving them. But if you have ever had that moment, that rare and strangely calm moment after enough pain, after enough blown opportunities, after enough emotional trades, when something inside you got tired in the right way, not weak but clear, and you started to see that the real problem was never out there on the screen, that maybe you were not actually fighting the market at all, maybe you were just being pulled around by your own unresolved reactions, then you are closer than you think, because that moment is where the real path begins. Not when you find the perfect system, not when you hit your first big payout, but when you stop trying to trade your way into emotional security and start building emotional security so you can finally trade properly. From there, everything changes slowly, quietly, almost invisibly at first, because now the game is no longer about winning big. It is about staying clean, staying aligned, staying disciplined, staying the same. And that sounds simple until pressure arrives and tries to pull you back into your old identity. But if you keep choosing process over drama, execution over ego, calm over urgency, something begins to harden in the right place. Not your heart, not your ambition, but your center. And once that center becomes stable enough, you stop being one of those traders who is constantly searching for the next answer. Because you finally understand that the answer was never hidden in another strategy, another mentor, another indicator, another entry model. It was hidden in the way you respond when the outcome does not go your way. So maybe the real question is not whether you can become profitable, because many people can have profitable periods, many people can catch momentum, many people can get lucky, many people can win for a while, but that was never the deeper question. The deeper question is whether you can become the kind of person who remains composed when losing, restrained when winning, patient when nothing is happening, honest when you are slipping, humble when you are sharp, and disciplined when every part of you wants to abandon the rules. Because if you become that person, profitability is no longer this mysterious, distant prize. It becomes a byproduct of who you are every day at the desk. And once you see that, truly see it, not as a quote, not as a nice idea, but as something that cuts through your excuses and reorganizes your behavior, then it becomes very hard to trade the old way, very hard to chase, very hard to revenge trade, very hard to attach your self-worth to the next candle, because some paths close quietly behind you, and the trader who needed to win every trade to feel alive starts disappearing, while someone calmer, sharper, quieter, and much harder to break begins taking his place. If this resonates with you, comment, "I stay the same," and subscribe if you prefer truth over noise. This is the way of Hunter.